All right, welcome back, YouTube. So I want to do an update here, and the reason I titled this video the big picture is because I wanted to discuss a few things before we start looking at price action and kind of where we are now. A few things is I believe that we are waiting on overall confirmation from the market as far as from macros, and that's why we're seeing kind of like this consolidation of prices here across the board. This isn't a Dogecoin consolidation here. I know most of you follow me for Dogecoin, but I'm going to point out here on the charts in a moment. If you take a look here, even what we're looking at as far as for like us being at the lows from like March, check and see the prices of Bitcoin around March, and you're going to see open and closes around 80 to 95,000, somewhere in that range here, which is where the price of Bitcoin is as well. So we're seeing a consolidation or a vacuum of all of the movement and gains that have been here for the last 10 plus months. We've seen this vacuum out, but I do believe that we're waiting on a confirmation here from the markets, and then we're kind of going to get a direction for this setup in 2026. And I believe that that's going to include everything from who our new Fed chair is going to be, the whether or not we're going to meet expectations coming up on the 10th this Tuesday, whether or not we're going to get that basis point lower, like the 0.25. If we get the 0.25, it's kind of factored in now, roughly around 89%. Most charts are predicting that we are in fact going to get the basis point drop. Then we'll meet expectations on what the Fed believe we'd be at, which is around 3.75 by the end of the year. So that's going to play a big part as well, because what we've been seeing is over the last couple of months, there's been huge sways, whether or not we're going to get another basis point drop, right? And every time someone would speak or something, we'd see that kind of react and play out in the market, that play for the probability of whether or not we get those drops. All of those things would kind of happen here. So I believe that's going to play a part. The jobs report that we're expecting here within the next week, we're also going to get those elusive October job reports that didn't get released due to the government shutdown. We're going to get those, and the November jobs report number, kind of get like a 2-for-1 coming here shortly. I believe that's on the 16th, if I'm not mistaken, but definitely this month. So we're kind of going to get a complete picture here, because obviously that sent shockwaves everywhere. That was the first time in U.S. history that we didn't get a jobs report, obviously because of the shutdown, but we're going to catch up and kind of have the complete picture painted between October and where we are now. That's going to play a big part. And I think overall the tone that what we're setting here is whether or not we are going expecting any type of severe pullbacks, or is it going to be a sector crash or anything? Because you'll see things from reports from like JP Morgan, Goldman, like, oh, you'll see like, oh, probability of a crash or a recession. And you'll see all these articles kind of come out every week or two. I think Goldman or JP had one a few months ago, and then they said, oh, probability of a strong 2026 coming up. And you see kind of like the flip-flopping going back and forth. And that doesn't, one thing about flip-flopping and kind of releasing a report that's counterintuitive to something you released earlier, is it's not going to induce confidence. And obviously that no confidence, anything other than conviction, is either going to create fear or at the very least stagnation in the markets here. And you'll see people start to take profit, not necessarily dump, but they're going to try and lock in some of those profits. So you'll see kind of like that retracement come on, trickle throughout the market, which I believe we're kind of seeing here thus far. So let me just take a look here overall at the charts, because up until was about a month ago, roughly, we've had the opportunity, we reached some of these lows here, especially around like the 16 cents mark. We were recovering roughly at around 100%, right? And then we look at what's happening now. We're at pretty much some of our lows since like March, right? Before that, we were obviously higher. We're coming off of some of the bigger rallies here toward the end of 2024. And if we go to back in time to like historic, even like Bitcoin runs, typically you'll start to see that momentum later in the year. And that kind of carries you into Q1 when that does happen. Even if you're talking about the cycles or the infamous cycle, you typically see those runs here. Not saying that's going to happen just yet. I haven't even compiled that data just yet. But overall, I do remember that historically you'll see that kind of later in the year. So we were coming off of that, and then we load. We had a low around 13.9 here, and obviously this dump here, that infamous crash here across the board where everyone it dipped down and no one could buy. But we had, it was around, let's call it 13 cents, right? And which is roughly where we are now. We're rejecting off of it, which is good. And we are kind of bouncing up and playing with around the 14-day average here, which is kind of acting as some form of resistance between us. But we're kind of bouncing between the 13 and the 13 cents and the 14-day moving average, right? So overall, I believe that what we're looking for is kind of some conviction in the market. I think it's going to be a trickle-down effect as far as for whether or not that capital is going to come in, because Dogecoin obviously isn't going to rally. I do believe without the capital coming into the market overall, unless there's a Dogecoin specific catalyst, which we don't have right now. So anything outside of something specific for Dogecoin, like a Dogecoin utility, or X taking Dogecoin payment, outside of something like that, we're going to have to wait until the capital comes back into the market, or to that confidence is restored, which is going to give us a general direction of what to expect, at least throughout Q1 of 2026. So that's ultimately what we're waiting on. I think with the ETFs and a lot of the things that have happened for crypto, particularly like Bitcoin, where they've been included in a lot of funds, this is going to be very important. So it's not going to be that extreme volatility that we're used to, where it's selling off, 90%, 50%, 60%, things like that. But you are going to see those corrections, especially around times where the information is, I don't say shady, but shaky, right? It will be a good example here. So I think when we see information around those times that are a little bit shaky, we're going to expect there to be some volatility in here, and you're obviously going to see shock waves between the assets here and what's going to happen overall in the short term. So for Doge, I do believe ultimately, I have not changed my stance. Dogecoin, for being a currency, we definitely need to have that utility. I'm still looking forward to, I believe Elon said something not too long ago about X payments. I have to pull it up, and I'll include it. I plan to upload a few times this week, so I'll put that in my notes to include it. But I believe he said something not too long ago about X payments and having that utility. That is what Dogecoin needs, right? Obviously the rising tides raises all boats. So obviously, when capital comes into the market, you can expect that the price will appreciate, which we've seen. We've seen that historically. Dogecoin has not weathered to the point where it has not been able to appreciate with the market rising. But as you saw when Bitcoin was having some of those individual catalysts, like going into those funds and really just being hyper focused on by institutions, it was able to set a new all-time high. Dogecoin rose with the price action, but it did not establish a new all-time high. We ultimately ended up peaking around 30 cents, 31 cents this year. So we're going to have to kind of couple those things here. So that's why I'm very interested in what is in store here, because once you have that utility there, in addition to obviously crypto expanding, that's going to be the cement really that kind of glues these floors in at some higher levels for Dogecoin, which I'm really appreciative here that we are around the 13 cents mark and holding it. Bitcoin as well, that positions us to pretty much appreciate and go retest some of these levels here before. Obviously for Bitcoin, that's going to be around 100,000. For us, I think it's, let's see, I want to say 17 cents has been, you would think it would be 20 cents, but around 17 cents would be really important for us. So obviously for Bitcoin, at that 100,000 mark, 17 cents is for Dogecoin, and no major signals here unless we consolidated down here for an abnormal amount of time, and we were getting ready to have a 72 14-day cross. Then yeah, at that point, that is going to be very alarming. But right now, we're consolidating with the market here. Again, the prices of Bitcoin and everything were aligning with kind of like that March to November ratio, March to December ratio. If you can go back and take a look at those prices, we're pretty much consolidated and just wiped out the movement and gains from now back until March. So that's happened across the board. I'm not panicking or raising any alarms for anyone until it starts to do some divergence. As long as things are moving in tune with each other, then it's a market thing and not a coin thing, right? So I know I saw some of the comments and they're like, "Oh, is it going to do this? Is it going to do that?" No. Overall, there is still a unity overall in the price movement, and we're not seeing a strong or severe divergence from Dogecoin, something where that should raise alarm. So no, nothing has changed thus far. So let me know some of your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Again, I do plan to upload a few times this week, so I look forward to answering those. And if we can get enough people, I'll do a live stream as well, kind of like the old days. But that being said, thank you guys. This is my update. Like the video, share it with a friend. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys in the next one.